Operation Bambi, SSO soldiers captured 3 occupiers and completed the mission with an unexpected rescue. The command of the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine shared a video of our defenders' successful operation this morning. It shows how Special Forces soldiers of the 6th Separate Special Operations Regiment Rangers infiltrated the area of the Russian military's position and attacked the occupiers. Before the battle began, our soldiers offered the enemy a chance to surrender, but the Russians refused, after which the fighters launched an assault. As a result of the operation, 1 soldier was killed, 3 were taken prisoner, and weapons, communication equipment, and documents were seized from the enemy. And after the battle, while clearing the enemy positions, the Ukrainian fighters unexpectedly noticed a small deer that had ended up in the combat zone and, due to extreme fear, could not leave the dangerous area on its own. The Special Forces evacuated it to a safe place, and in the unit, this episode was named Operation Bambi in honor of the world-famous book for children about the adventures of a little fawn, the film adaptation of which became very popular in the 20th century.
Come on, get out faster. You have a minute. Second minute. Go after him.
A number of settlements in the western part of Crimea were left without power after an attack on energy infrastructure. This was reported by the Telegram channel Crimean Wind. In particular, according to information, the Kornomorske district is completely without power due to emergency shutdowns, and reports of power outages were already being posted on the Crimenergo page yesterday. As is known, in total, nearly 3 dozen energy facilities in the occupied south of Ukraine have been disconnected from the grid. The new mission, titled Crimean Switch Off, was announced by the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Madyar Brovdi. Among the targets are thermal power plants and electrical substations, particularly in Crimea, the Zaporizhzhia region, and occupied Mariupol. Following the Dairy special operation aimed at destroying military logistics and isolating the Russian grouping in temporarily occupied Crimea, the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces wrote that as part of the new special operation from July 1st to August 13th, our pilots have already struck 240 energy hubs.
Yes, of course. Since the operations are mostly completed successfully, some details can be revealed. Indeed, there are currently no assaults taking place without the participation of the unmanned component. Now, the ground component, ground drones, has also joined in. Everything in combination forms the offensive fist of the Ukrainian army. Combined assaults were used. Well, our battle captains call this a gangbang when a specific enemy target is chosen and all the efforts of adjacent units are directed at destroying a certain point fortified area or command post, or accordingly launch sites for enemy drones. It is very important to specifically take out drones, the enemy's unmanned component, because it mainly harasses our infantry and slows down the offensive pace. Therefore, our unit's main task from the command was the liquidation and deactivation of enemy FPV pilots. In short, you could say so.
Mr. Mikola, I have a question for you, about what you saw when you were liberating those territories. Is there anything at all? Is there anything alive there? Are there any houses or buildings left there at all? I'm asking this because, previously, liberation, especially of such a number of settlements, was at least visually associated with raising or attaching a Ukrainian flag somewhere. We understand that everything was happening under conditions of information silence. But at the same time, is there at least something left where a Ukrainian flag can be raised?
Usually the enemy employs a scorched earth tactic. As a rule, settlements of Ukraine are wiped almost to zero. It is painful to watch, especially when you return to this land. These are mostly small settlements. If the enemy has passed through the area and then decides to retreat, first, they systematically wipe out everything, absolutely everything, where one could possibly hide or take cover. It is a scorched earth tactic. And then our offensive operation, let's say, does its job, and there are no houses or population left there, unfortunately.
I'll just tell our viewers, I was just trying to compare what 745 square kilometers actually means. That's a little bit less than the entire territory of Kyiv. So that's a fairly large territory for Fortunately, it is now liberated from the enemy and has been repainted a different color on all the maps we follow to see where and how the front is moving. Therefore, a big thank you to all our defense forces and to you and your fellow soldiers in particular for the work done.
And what is happening in the settlements that we have liberated? And are there any civilians there? Is there anything left at all after the front line has rolled over them twice? Do these settlements even exist in the form that we imagine them to be in the rear?
This is usually a gray zone where the enemy also remains in some places, and clearing operations still need to be conducted. There is almost nowhere to return to Yevhen. Everything there needs to be restored and rebuilt. And I think that won't happen anytime soon because the line of combat contact is dynamically changing. Sometimes the enemy tries to retake settlements that have already been liberated. Therefore, there is no talk of restoring life in these settlements right now. The main task of the air assault and assault troops is to clear, to push forward, and then our infantry has to secure and hold these positions. The situation is quite difficult. Offensive operations are not a standard form of warfare for us, as you know. Therefore, I will say this, it's a gray zone, and for a certain period, it will remain in this state.
And in your opinion, the fact that this has appeared in the information space from official sources, does it mean that at some point this zone is now stabilizing and it can be said that for a certain period, well, some of our offensive actions or the enemy's offensive actions will be paused?
Yes, of course. This declared territory is liberated, it is stabilized. Now our task is to cut off the enemy's logistical routes so that the grouping does not accumulate for retaking these territories. That is exactly why we need middle strike capabilities like the Hornet in order to strike enemy positions at a distance of 100, 120 kilometers from these liberated territories, so that the enemy has neither the desire nor the time nor the capabilities to retake these liberated territories. This applies not only to the Oleksandrivka direction, but also to Huliaipol and the Orikhiv direction, which is more critical because the enemy there does not abandon their ideas and their attempts to retake this territory, to bypass Orikhiv from the side in order to capture the strategic direction towards Zaporizhia. Therefore, the situation somewhere the enemy's build-up creates additional threats even for those territories that have already been liberated. We are trying to keep this under control. That is why it is important for unmanned systems to have the means to strike the enemy's rear.
How difficult was it to maintain this information silence during the offensive operations? Because I am sure that both you and your brothers in arms wanted to share the successes with society and tell them that, well, we are doing this, that we are liberating territories. How hard was it to do that?
Based on the experience of previous information campaigns, previous offensive operations, we try our best not to disseminate information. As you saw, this time it almost didn't go beyond operational reports and headquarters. So I think all the people are interested, all the personnel are interested in their safety first and foremost. Therefore, experience has already taught us to hold our tongues and focus more on doing the job than talking about it.